Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. We are at the halfway point of the Premier League season, and as things stand, it's been a very enjoyable campaign. So with that in mind, I think today is a good day to go through some Premier League ratings, and I have a very special guest with me today, and that is Jonathan Morley. Jonathan, how are you doing today?
Jamie, what's up? How are you? Thanks for having me on. Obviously, we don't know each other for that long, really. This is our first proper time chatting. But yeah, it's a good idea. I think we're going to have some fun with this today.
Yeah, 100%. There's a lot to talk through. Some teams have been doing a lot better than others. And obviously, two of us as Liverpool fans, I think we can be fairly happy with how we've been doing. We'll kick it off anyway. We'll start with Arsenal. I'll let you take it away first. What are your kind of thoughts on Arsenal so far this year?
Certainly, they've regressed from last season. I mean, if Arsenal were as good as what they were over the last couple of seasons, then it would be an awful lot closer at the top at this stage of the season. Halfway through, obviously, Liverpool have played 18 games. We've a game more to play until we're properly halfway through the season, but it would be an awful lot closer. Arsenal, they're lacking goals, even with Saka in the team. Without Saka in the team, I can't see them putting together any sort of serious form. Defensively, they're not as good as they were last season. I think now at this current moment, they still have the least goals by one, I think, conceded in the league. But obviously they had Odegaard injured as well. Look, there's certain things that haven't went for them this season, but they certainly haven't been as good. I think Arteta as well has went more into his shell defensively, kind of being up a goal, and like what we've seen at the Emirates in the second half, they just tried their best to hold on to it, which is stupid. I don't know if that's a tactic out of desperation because they haven't been able to get over the line over the last two seasons, but certainly Arsenal fans, I think, regardless of where they are on the table, would have been hoping for better at this stage of the season before the season started.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I think, especially with the fall off in Man City this year, it would have been a huge opportunity for them to capitalise. Obviously, Liverpool have been playing really well, so I think you'd have to give credit to that as well. But they definitely have regressed in where they'd want to be. They're definitely a lot more, I'd say, unbalanced more than anything else. They were crying out for a striker. They didn't get one. And then we've seen like some of the players like Martinelli, Zinchenko, they've kind of stepped back even more so than what you would want. So they're heavily reliant on, say, set pieces, and then Saka, who's obviously injured now until I think it's like another 2 months or so. So I think definitely would be disappointing for where they are. But in terms of their grade, and what are you thinking? I'd probably maybe a C plus, to be honest.
Yeah, I was going to say like between B minus or C plus, and I think just a flat out C is cool. I think the vast majority of Arsenal fans would agree with that as well.
Yeah, 100%. Perfect. We'll go with that, so. Okay, next up, a team that performed very well last year and had a good start to the season. But I suppose Aston Villa. What are your thoughts on Aston Villa and how they've been performing?
I mean, that fourth spot is very much up for grabs, look, obviously Liverpool have been exceptional this season, and Forest have had an unbelievable season thus far. And Chelsea have been better, but that fourth spot is very much up for grabs. I think Villa were another team who were better last season. I think this season, I actually predicted them before the season started, like 8th or 9th, and they're 9th now. It was just with the Champions League coming in. It's like their squad is not big enough just yet. I do think they'll finish better than 9th. I do think they'll be in the shake-up for top 4. Whether they'll get it or not, I'm not sure. Newcastle do look better right now, and obviously Chelsea do as well. Whether Forest stay there or whatever, we will see. But Watkins hasn't been as good. Obviously, Morgan Rogers has been very good. John Duran has been, I'd say, even better than he was last season. Ups and downs for Villa, and it is more difficult, obviously, with the extra games of the Champions League. But again, a team you would not say have improved in terms of their league form anyway at this stage to last season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the one thing we probably noticed with like the likes of Newcastle, Aston Villa, Brighton, when they do well and they have a good campaign like Newcastle did a few years ago, it usually means the second season they start to struggle because of, as you said there, fatigue on the players. It's a lot of extra games. I think Villa are probably feeling the weight of that. at the minute. I think they were 4 from 4 in the Champions League at the start, so
Yeah.
they showed that the quality that they still have, and the likes of, say, Duran, Watkins is obviously still a really good player. Tielemans has started to perform well this season, but probably not where they want to be in the league. And I'd say there is room for improvement, but definitely they'd probably want a little bit more coming into the second half of the season.
Yeah. I mean, they're 6 points off top 4, and they are a team certainly who are capable of going on some sort of a decent run. But much the same as Arsenal, I'd probably say, in terms of expectations. Well, even the it probably is. So I'd be thinking around C again, in terms of their league form anyway.
Yeah, no, 100%. I'd agree as well. I think C, just because I think they're looking to take that next step, and I think C is probably fair because I think they would want to maybe be pushing for that Champions League place again. So yeah, I'd go C as well. Okay, we'll keep it moving. So, next up we have Bournemouth. I'll let you take it away once more. What are your thoughts on Bournemouth so far this year?
I really like Bournemouth. I really, really like Bournemouth. I think I had them predicted inside the top 10 this season, and so far they are fulfilling that prediction. Obviously, they're 7 at the moment. I think Iraola is a great manager. They've had some really good players this season. I've been so impressed with Semenyo actually this season. I think he's been fantastic. But yeah, I think Bournemouth, where they are right now, they're certainly not punching above their weight. They have been that good this season, and that has been kind of boiling up with Iraola since he kind of came in. I think they've been excellent. They've taken some big scalps this season, obviously City and Arsenal. So I think Bournemouth at this stage of this season have certainly exceeded their expectations, but I think they're well able to actually continue this to the end of the season.
Yeah, 100% agree. I think the one thing as well that impressed me in Bournemouth is the fact that they sold Solanke in the summer, who was obviously one of their, or if not their main goal threat last year. And they still adapted really well without him. As you said there, like Semenyo's obviously come in, who's being talked about maybe making a move to a big club now in the summer as well. Liverpool are one of the teams looking at him. And yeah, Iraola has got them playing some unbelievable football. And I think if they were able to continue that form going into the second half of the season, then they could be another team looking to push for, say, a Champions League spot or definitely a Europa League. In terms of grading, I'd probably lean towards. I'm probably in between like B, A. I'm more leaning towards A, just because I feel like they've obviously lost Solanke. They're a team that maybe wouldn't have a bigger budget as like some of the other teams around them, like a Villa or a Newcastle, and they're up there fighting with them. So, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I'd agree, Jamie. I'd say I would lean towards the A minus. Are we doing pluses and minuses, or are we just?
Yeah, we'll do plus and minus. A minus, I think. Yeah.
A minus. Yeah, like I mean, A plus would be like something like what obviously Forest are doing at the moment, but we'll go A minus. Yeah, or Liverpool, obviously.
Yeah, a hint there for what Forest might be getting. Okay, next up we have a team that they've been consistently a very good Premier League team. That is Brentford. I think with Brentford, their home form has been really good, away form not so much. But I think they're just doing really what they should be doing. They have some good players in there, and Mbeumo was obviously the star man. They lost Tony in the summer, which was obviously a big blow. But I think it's something that they knew was coming. And even before that, when he was on the suspension, they were still able to manage without him. I think Thomas Frank is probably, if not up there, one of the best managers in the league in terms of like what he does, and I think it's only a matter of time before he moves to a big club or gets that opportunity to move to a big club. But I've been just another solid year, I think, from Brentford. I think every year they probably go into it is to stay in the Premier League, and that's obviously the expectation, I'd say, again this year. But what are your thoughts on Brentford so far?
Yeah, I think it's amazing. You mentioned Thomas Frank there. I mean, what the resources and everything that he has available to him. Obviously, Brentford being quite a small club, and it's, there's barely even a question every season whether they're going to stay up or not. I mean, what he's built there is absolutely unbelievable. Obviously, they lost Tony in the summer, but if anything, they've been just as good going forward. Their home form is unbelievable. They've only lost one game all season at home, and that was against Forest only a couple of weeks ago or so. Yep. Their away form hasn't been fantastic, but they've been competitive. Like Bournemouth, they've taken scalps this season. I mean, they're doing what they what they should be doing ultimately. But some people maybe would have said with Tony going in the summer that they wouldn't be performing as well as they are. So, but they're kind of where I would think they would have been, you know.
Yeah, definitely. I think missing Tony, I think is something that you would have to take into account. I think defensively as well, I'd say that's something Thomas Frank has obviously spoken about in his press conferences. They want to improve, but I think, as you said, definitely where they should be. But I think in terms of expectation to where they are, I'd probably go maybe a B minus. Just doing exactly what they need to be doing.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I think a C would be harsh. I go B minus as well. I definitely think there's potential that they can better that 12th position that they're in as well.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, so they're leaving United in their dust, which is a good sign in themselves.
Bigger club anyway.
Okay, next up we have the Seagulls, Brighton. Yeah, they've had a good start to the year. They're I think after 4 games they were up in the Champions League places, so they had a good start. They kind of wavered a little bit in form, but they're still a really good team. They're just another team similar to Brentford, where I think they just want to be staying in the Premier League. We've seen it with other teams where they've been consistently good and then they've started to slip a little bit. Then they start getting dragged into the relegation zone. Happened to Southampton, where they were a really good team for a while. They got dragged into the relegation scrap. They got relegated, and I think that's what Brighton would try to avoid. They obviously. They've had some good stars come through this year, and yeah, I think they're doing, I think, where they should be. I think they maybe some games they'll be a little bit disappointed. They start to maybe fade in the second half of games, which would be a worry. But yeah, I think they're doing okay, but maybe a little bit more similar to Brentford would be expected of them. What are you thinking?
Yeah, they're a good side. I mean, we've seen that at Anfield. I think Brighton are always a good side. Obviously, they beat City as well. If that's even an achievement at this point. But yeah, no, they're a good side. And early days, as you were saying there, Jamie, with Hertzler, I thought they were really going to, kind of be in around where Bournemouth are there at the moment. But they were pretty solid top 6 until maybe 5 or 6 games ago. They've not been on the best form. But no, I do imagine they'll be in the top 10. They're probably they are a little bit underachieving right now, if we're to speak right now. But they're a good side. I think they won't be in poor form for long. I think Hertzler's doing the right things there. So I think it's one of those. Are they doing bad? No. Are they doing good? Probably no either. They're in the middle of that.
Yeah, I'd probably leaning towards a C minus. I think the football that they try to play is really good football, and it definitely is potential there for a team to be performing better. I think the one thing they're lacking is just the consistency. And if they get that in the second half of the season, then you could be looking like a C minus into say a B plus.
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd agree with the C minus. Brighton are one of those teams that seem to play better in the bigger games against the better teams. They have Arsenal there now next weekend, and that's a game in where I can see them definitely getting something from. Whereas they were playing Palace in the derby there a couple of weeks ago and they lost 3-0 at home. They got a point last night against Villa. In the bigger games they seem to produce their best stuff. It's what they do against the teams that they should be. I remember they drew against Southampton there only a couple of weeks ago as well at home after going 1-0 up. But Brighton have always been a little bit like that. But I do expect them to improve on their position later on this season.
Yeah,
I'd agree
100%.
with C minus anyway.
C minus. We'll go for that. So. Right, moving on to the big spenders. Well, they've been good this year. Chelsea, what are you thinking so far?
Yeah, I mean, before their last 3 games, I mean, you would have probably said A, but I don't think you can do that now. And I think it was so premature from some people. I even seen some people say that they were going to win the league. 16 games in before these 3 games that have happened, in which they've got 2 losses and a draw from against 3 teams they should be beating. Let's be real. But look, Maresca's done a good job there. He has done a good job. He has players playing well. The likes of Jackson have improved. The likes of Caicedo have improved. He is getting the most out of a lot of players there who have been there for a while and who have not been, playing to what the level that they should be. So I think he's done a good job there, but they have big problems there. The goalkeeper is terrible. Sanchez is awful.
Yeah.
Their defense is completely lopsided. I can't see a strong kind of defensive figure or leader in that defense, and that's something I would have said that Maresca should have addressed in the summer. So maybe there's a couple of things on him as well, but look, you can't solve all your problems, especially with all the problems that Chelsea had when he came in one summer, no more than United or any other team. But they are doing well. They are doing well. I think you'd have to say Maresca has done a good job, even though I won't be surprised if this form continues for another while, because
the dip in form.
They're there to be got at. Like, they are there to be got at. Like, I watched them against Fulham. Fulham outplayed them. Outplayed them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, Fulham are a good side. I really like Fulham. I really like Marco Silva, but Fulham outplayed them.
Yeah. Yeah, no, 100% agree. I think there's pros and there's cons to how Chelsea. They've obviously had a really good start, and I think the dip in form that we're seeing now is probably something that was coming. They have like some good players going forward, but as you said, defensively they're a bit weak. The likes of like Sanchez is obviously the one kind of one that sticks out. But even they're chopping and changing sometimes between what centre backs they're going to go with. And I think they're fourth at the minute. And I think that's probably, in terms of expectations, probably where they would have wanted to be.
Yes.
I think, if in fairness to Chelsea fans, a lot of Chelsea fans that I spoke to, they didn't think they were in a title race. It was more, say, some of the pundits saying that they were because of the form. They're getting excited about it.
True, yeah.
So I think they were being really realistic. And I think even the end of last season, they had really good form with Pochettino, and they sacked him due to indifferences. So there was potential there, and I think Maresca's obviously come into that. And he's done well with what he's had. He's made some good decisions around, like, say, Sterling, Sancho, and getting, swapping them out and getting Sterling gone, even though you're not part of my plans. Jackson started to discover some form, which is good. But in terms of grading, what are you thinking?
A few weeks ago, probably would have been A-.
Yeah.
Now I'm thinking B. Like B. I'm not sure. B plus maybe, but I'm not sure. Like,
Yeah. No, I think B plus is fair. I think.
Yeah. B plus. Fair.
Yeah, you take all the way up until like the last few games where they've obviously had a little bit of dip in form, but I think that was coming. Just because of how good they have been. So the expectation was obviously a little bit higher. So I think a B plus is fair. And I think they're doing well, and if they continue that form, they'll get Champions League, I think, in the second half of the season.
Like if the big thing with Chelsea is, if you've seen that the teams that they've dropped points to this season, even before those 3 games, is that, anybody was saying that Chelsea were title contenders, and I know it wasn't largely Chelsea fans at all, but I was just saying that look at the teams that they've actually dropped points to, and it's going to be interesting, because if you look at that league, there are still about 4 or 5 teams you would say have a good chance of getting into that fourth. And you know what? At this moment in time, I don't see City getting into that. No chance. Genuinely no chance. So I don't think Chelsea can be complacent at all in terms of top 4. But looking at the predictions on M&F last night about both Cara and Neville had City in top 4, like, I don't know what they're watching.
Yeah, I think the probably expectation with City is that, like, they obviously have the players there, they just don't know what's going wrong. And Guardiola's, I think they can obviously go out and buy in the January window as well, if that's something that they want to do, because they have a lot of cash flow there. So they might turn it around. I think that's the expectation, whereas the others need to consistently keep performing.
Yeah.
But I think Chelsea, they, similar to Man City, they have the players there, and the expectation would be that they would get it ahead of, say, Forest, a Villa, or Bournemouth. But yeah, we'll talk about Forest later on. But Chelsea, I think B plus, I think, is fair.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Right, moving on to the Eagles. Jonathan, I'll let you take it away. What do you think of Crystal Palace so far this year?
I certainly expected an awful lot better after what they were like when Glasner first came in last season. They're sitting in 15th. They've been a bit better lately. I think, are they unbeaten? I think they might be unbeaten. They lost to Arsenal last week, but before that they were unbeaten in 3 or 4 games. They've got a lot of draws. They won their last game coming back from behind against Southampton 2-1. Eze scored a nice goal. They need those kind of players to pick up form this season because they have been struggling, and the more they stay down there, I mean, the more the threat of potential relegation looms. And I don't think you would have said that at all starting the season or before the start of the season with Crystal Palace. Elise was a big miss, but ultimately they have good players there. You talk about the likes of Mateta as well. So certainly under what their expectations would have been at the start of the season. I would have expected to see Palace mid-table or maybe even low top 10 at this stage of the season, but they've been nowhere near it. But I do think they are improving gradually, kind of without the firepower. But yeah,
100%. I think obviously selling Elise in the summer was a big thing as well, but I think when you look at them, as you said there, they've taken a lot of draws. If you look like they've only scored 20 goals, I think, so far in the league, which is a worry in considering like the free scoring form they were in come the end of last season, and they're hoping that maybe they were gonna carry that on. They just haven't been able to find it. Eze has struggled a lot. Mateta has been in and out of the team. I know he started the season with injury, but definitely would expect a little bit more from them. And I think in the second half of the season, if it does click, I think they're a team that can go on a run. So, in terms of grade, I'd probably be leaning towards maybe like a D plus, C minus kind of. A D plus does feel very harsh, but
I was thinking D minus, genuinely.
Oh, harsh, very harsh.
Just purely because Palace, the last 10 or so games last season were a good side, and granted you can put it down to a new manager bounce or whatever, but they have good players there, Palace. I'll agree with a D plus, but
we'll go in the middle.
If they stay there the entire season, then Glasner is seriously underachieving with what he has. I'm not saying he's like a great squad or he's quality players to every position, but they should be doing a lot better than 15th, minus 7 goal difference. They have 7 losses already this season, only 4 wins. Yeah, they've only 4 wins this season, which is the 3rd worst in the league.
Yeah, definitely. I think if they improve their form going forward, I think the goals will obviously help in terms of getting those draws into wins. But at the minute they definitely need to start improving on that side. We'll agree to go with a D plus then.
Yeah, fair.
Right, next up we have Liverpool's next door neighbours, Everton. I think Everton. Listen, they don't have a points deduction this year, which I suppose is an improvement on anything. But they had some good results the last few games. The draw against Arsenal, the draw against Chelsea, the draw against City. So, I think those 3 results, I think, have obviously helped things. I don't know, like they're a team that are definitely underachieving with the size of the club that it is. But in terms of like expectations of where you would expect Everton to be year after year right now, it would be kind of in a relegation battle. And I think with the players that they have, I do think they're going to be safe. I think there's teams around them that are worse off. But I think the club as a whole, you would expect them to do more. Obviously with the ownership coming in, that'll obviously help. And the new stadium might be able to rejuvenate some of the joy that Everton fans once had, because it seemed like a long time since they've been able to be happy with the team. But what are your thoughts so far on Everton's season?
No, I'd agree, Jamie. Like, I mean, when does it get to the point with Everton that like you're saying, I mean, you're just saying you're just a relegation contender every season? When does it get to the point where the standards actually get higher, or get to where they should be? I mean, every season they're battling relegation. They're so lucky. They're unbelievably lucky over the last few years that they haven't been in the Championship. They've only not been in the Championship because there has been absolutely horrific sides that have came, and and I emphasize, horrific sides with little or no money as well. So they have a reason to be horrific. You're talking the likes of Luton or whatever. Terrible sides, but very small, amount of resources that Everton have literally been down there with. And when does it get to the point where you're saying, like, I mean, come on, Everton are a big club, Dyche. I think Dyche was fantastic at Burnley, but it's pretty clear to see at Everton he's just a one-trick pony. That works sometimes, but ultimately it's never going to get you anywhere properly competitive in a top league like the Premier League.
Yeah.
And as you say, I think the saddest thing is that they're probably meeting their expectations so far this season.
100%. I think, like, the thing is, if you probably ask Everton fans where they or what they would want from their team at the start of the season, they would just stay up. That's the main thing. That's all they want. And I think now with the new ownership coming in, I think that is something that the expectations might start to shift. I think one player as well that stood out from him is in Dye. Did I ever say his name?
Yes.
Yeah. So he's been a shining light, I think, in terms of offering them a little bit more going forward, getting the fans off their seats, which has been good. But I think they're probably just performing exactly where they should be. But they're, as you said, there's going to have to be a shift. I think Sean Dyche might, with the new ownership coming in, he might be someone that they would look to replace, get their own man in, which I think is probably the right step. But then you're taking a risk as well. But in terms of like grading, what are you thinking? It's a hard one with Everton.
I mean, like, you probably say they're meeting probably everybody's expectations as to now, including Everton fans, to this season. But this is a team that has spent hundreds of millions over the last decade, hundreds of millions. And when does it come, as I said previously, to a time that you have to say, well, it has to get better at some stage? I think it has to be a D. I genuinely think it has to be a D. I do. I do. It's embarrassing. Like, I mean, they're 2 points above Ipswich.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Kieran McKenna's a fantastic manager, but look at Ipswich's squad compared to Everton's. I mean, give me a break. Do you know what I mean?
No, I think it is fair. I think I was leaning towards C minus, but I think a D is fair considering the size of the club. They're probably other than Man United, they're probably the biggest club in the relegation battle. So yeah, I think do we go with a D plus for Everton?
Yeah, I think they deserve it. And as you said earlier, Jamie, I mean, and we both did. Like, they've quality in that team, and they'll have to look elsewhere than Dyche. He's a one-trick pony. It's as simple as that.
Right, we'll move on then. Next up, we have Fulham. Obviously had a really good campaign, I think, so far. But what are your thoughts on Fulham?
Yeah, I really like Fulham. Actually, Marco Silva is one of my favourite managers in the league, obviously outside of Arne Slot. And I just think he's done a fantastic job at Fulham. I think they play football in the right way. He's got the right players in. I absolutely love Anthony Robinson. I think he's such a fantastic player. I was looking at M&F last night. Cara had him in his team. Neville had Gvardiol, which was utterly crazy. Like, Robinson has been so good this season, man, and like, he deserves to be playing Champions League genuinely or something like that, like the top level. He's that good. Yeah. But even though you look at the likes of Alex Iwobi, Muniz has been a good signing. He scored some goals. Raul Jimenez has been good too. Harry Wilson has been good. Silva's really, like, he was always a manager who's good at setting his team up going forward. But I think he's done a great job at Fulham. They're not easy to break down either. We've seen that at Anfield. Defensively, they're good. They obviously brought in Anderson not too long ago as well, who's another good player. He's done a great job at Fulham. And I genuinely think Fulham will get inside the top 8 this season. They're 8th as we speak. And, they're a really, really good side. I really like watching them. And you probably would have said mid-table around before the season started, but they're exceeding that, and I think they will continue to do so.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think like as you said, Marco Silva he's such a good manager. He gets a lot out of his teams in like whatever situation that he's in. I think the one thing they're probably Probably, I'd say even probably disappointed with themselves. I think like some games they've maybe like let them get away from them. I think they drew with Ipswich recently after beating, or they drew with Liverpool, had a really good game against Liverpool, and then they go out and draw with, I think it might have been actually Bournemouth.
It was,
and
Bournemouth.
Yeah, Bournemouth. But like it's not the end of the world. But I still think there's probably another gear that they can go through. And with the players that they have there, I think they lost Pellegrini in the summer, which was a huge player for them, and they've been able to adapt to that. He's brought well. The centre backs are obviously really good. Bassi, he was missing for the game against Liverpool, and he like they didn't even look like they were missing him. Do you know what I mean? And yeah, Robinson is probably the standout. I think it's only a matter of time before he gets a move to a big club, whether that's Liverpool or Arsenal. But I think he'd fit in with most big teams, and he should be playing Champions League football as well. But yeah, all round, I think definitely a really good team to watch, and I enjoy watching them. But I'd probably say in terms of expectations or grades, I'd probably go maybe like a B minus. I think there's definitely like a little bit. I'd probably, if they were going for like say like Champion or Europa League spots, then I'd probably look at like say B plus, A minus. But I think 8, and if they were to finish 8, I think B minus would be fair.
I was gonna say B plus, to be fair. I was gonna say B plus, because like I mean they have been unlucky. They have been unlucky too. As you said, Jamie. I mean a lot of the games where they haven't been good in is teams that they should be beating. Obviously Bournemouth are a good side too, but I was just watching the highlights on Saturday, or just a few days ago. Obviously you lose track of days over Christmas. Yeah. But it was a really bad mistake. They had that game wrapped up, and then Diop made a really bad mistake passing out from the back, and Bournemouth scored from it. So that was a poor 2 points to drop. But I will go B plus, honestly.
Okay, right. Well, we'll go with B plus. We'll leave your knowledge to the test. We'll let us know in the comments what you think. Do you agree? B minus, B plus. Okay, next up we have Premier League newcomers, Ipswich. I think in terms of the style of play, I think there's a lot of admiration for what they're doing, especially coming into the Premier League. Some teams like to change, but I think at the end of the day, for a team like Ipswich, it's about staying in the Premier League, and sometimes they've been a bit naive. I think the result against Chelsea was amazing, and I think that's the type of result that could kickstart a very good run of form. But sometimes they're a little bit open to play against. They can get got at, but I think that is expected of a team that's like fighting relegation. But so far, I think they're knocking about. They're definitely in with a chance of staying up, unlike say some of the other teams like Southampton look like they're already gone. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Ipswich so far?
Yeah, I like Ipswich, and obviously Kieran McKenna being an Irishman, I always wish the absolute, best for be it Irish players, Irish managers, any Irish people involved in football. And as you said, Jamie, I mean their playing style is one to certainly admire. I mean, you don't usually see, for the vast majority of games anyway, them completely sit back and just try to contain. You've seen that for a good bit of the Arsenal game, but even in the second half, they kind of came out and, just kind of that quality going forward. It's a bit like watching the Leicester and City game there a few days ago, with these lower teams, these teams coming up from the Championship, they don't quite have it. Liam Delap, has been fantastic, and he really looks like a top talent going forward. What age is he? Like 21, 22?
Yeah, I think he's 21. Yeah.
Yeah, which is crazy. He's been unbelievable. I mean, he was causing Chelsea absolute chaos last night. Scored a good penalty too. Won the penalty as well. But I think McKenna is doing the best with what he's got. My uncle is an Ipswich fan, and I have a little wager on him with him that Ipswich are going to go down this season, and I do believe they will go down, but I feel like they're the Luton of last season, whereas everything is up against them, and if they stayed up, it would be a fantastic achievement. Yeah,
no, I agree. I think they're just missing that tiny bit of quality to kind of get them over the line. That you say, like you look at like Wolves and Everton. I think as well Premier League experience comes into it, and that's obviously something that they both have. So in terms of grading, I was probably leaning towards like a C plus. I think they're obviously doing well with what they have, but what are you thinking?
Yeah, I completely concur with that. Yeah, C plus. C plus is good to me. I think if they were outside the drop zone, you would say B. If they were like, if they were like where United are in the team, then you would say like A plus. Yeah, C plus.
Don't worry, we'll have loads of time to talk about United shortly. Perfect. Right, we'll go with C plus for them. Okay, next up we have former Premier League champions of 2016, and that is Leicester City, back in the Premier League after obviously coming up from promotion, winning the championship pretty well. But yeah, what are your thoughts so far on Leicester?
They're where you'd expect as well. I think, like, I just can't see past the current bottom three not going down. I genuinely can't. It was the three promoted teams last season that went down, and I can't see it being any different this season, other than Ipswich giving a good account of themselves. Potentially Leicester too. Leicester aren't that bad. We like at Anfield, obviously, you know, they were very lucky with the goal that they scored. Obviously took a big deflection and wrong-footed Alisson into the corner. He didn't have a chance really at all, but I watched them against City. They certainly have an outlet going forward. Defensively, as you'd expect, there's, you know, plenty of gaps and holes there to exploit for other teams. Even though City didn't create all that many big chances, they're not a bad side. It's just they haven't the quality. I mean, and as you'd expect with kind of these promoted teams coming up, but even somebody like, you know, you're depending on what, like a 39 or 38-year-old Jamie Vardy to get you your goals. Patson Daka isn't a good forward. You know, like Ayew is all right, but he's not going to get you like 10 goals a season even. So,
yeah,
you know, they're not a bad side, but they don't score enough goals. Van Nistelrooy's came in, he's done a better job, but yeah, I mean, you look at the goals they're conceding, they're certainly not scoring enough to make up for them.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think they've the joint most goals conceded so far in the league this year, which I think that is the biggest worry. I think Van Nistelrooy's come in and they've conceded him even more opportunities than what they should be. And I think any team that wants to come up from the Championship and do well in the Premier League, the one thing they need to make sure is that they're not leaking a lot of goals, because, you know, coming up against, like, say, a lot of good teams, very well organised, that you might only need, like, say, one or two opportunities to maybe nick a win or a draw. And if you're conceding, say, three goals a game, then it's just not going to happen. And yeah, I think, as you said, relying on Vardy, I think they look around like the other teams around them, like say like Wolves, they obviously have Cunha, who I think is obviously class. Vardy's had a great career, but Cunha's obviously a much better player at this stage, and yeah, I think the likelihood is for them, unfortunately, is that they're probably going to go back down again.
Yeah.
But in terms of grading, what are you thinking?
I mean, look. My bottom three before the season started was Ipswich, Southampton, and Forest. Which, in my defense, a lot of people might have had Forest. Yeah, an awful lot of people did. Like, I mean, wow, like this is crazy. But I actually had Leicester just about staying up. So, look, the expectation pretty much widely was they would go down. But it's still 42 goals conceded in 19 games. You're going to have to say D plus. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the exact same thing. D plus, I think, is fair. If they sort out defensively in the second half of the season, then I think there's definitely an opportunity for them to go forward. But I think D plus is fair for now. Right, perfect. We'll move on to obviously the team that is leading the Premier League, mine and Jonathan's team, and that is Liverpool. Jonathan, take it away. What are your thoughts so far on Liverpool this year?
Absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible. I mean, you know, you even see people talk about, oh, well, you know, and you've seen this back in 2020 when obviously Liverpool won the league. Oh, other teams not performing to where they were or whatever. Like, stop talking absolute crap, you know. Stop talking absolute crap, because that doesn't matter whatsoever. Liverpool have lost one game all season. One solitary game. Liverpool are on pace, on course right now for 96 points, if you're talking about 45 points in 18 games. Yeah. So Liverpool have blown everybody out of the water so far this season. And I hate to say it, because I don't like to be a jinx or anything like that or whatever. I do hate to say it, but the only team that would beat Liverpool to this Premier League title right now is Liverpool. That's it. That's the only team
Good way
that
of
would.
it. No.
Thank you. And I swear, genuinely, I can't see that happening. What Slaughter's came in and done is absolutely unbelievable. We thought, obviously, and look, what Klopp did at Liverpool was incredible, but we thought, this season could be a bit transitional in terms of obviously the new manager coming in after Klopp being there for so long, and Slot just taken us on straight away. I mean, he's just improved us in so many ways instantly. I mean, you're talking about tactically, the little tweaks he makes in between games. You're talking about the players that he has just got the absolute best of. You're talking about players who look like world beaters now, who last season you were probably saying would have been better off not being at the club, would have been better off Liverpool selling them, the summer, the likes of Gravenberch, Gakpo. Then you see the likes of obviously Salah. We're seeing prime Salah again. You look at Luis Diaz. It's absolutely ridiculous. It's ridiculous. It's just ridiculous what he's done. It's ridiculous, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy, and there's not. You look at us so far this season, and you can't say there's one huge weakness. You can look at all the rest of the teams or whatever, and you can talk about a weakness. You look at Liverpool. There's not one huge weakness. Maybe the only player this season who hasn't been at that standard is Andy Robertson. But yeah, sorry for all the waffle.
Listen, you're feeling the love of Liverpool right now, and I think. I think it was a worrying time, I think, as a Liverpool fan at the end of last season. We obviously were moving into a stage of unnatural, being in a completely different place to what we were used to. We were used to so much stability with Klopp in terms of what we were expecting from the team. So it was only natural that you come to this stage of the season where Liverpool are top of the league, and as you said and put it so nicely, the only team that's stopping Liverpool in the league is Liverpool, because they're the only team that's going to be able to take if it was to say if for them to fall off and then for other teams to capitalise, because as you said, if Liverpool get to 96 points in the current form that they're on, the other teams still need to win all their games, which is a big ask in terms of Arsenal, Chelsea, for where they're at right now, and I don't even think that's going to happen. But in terms of what Slot has done, I think there's been so much said about it already, as you said there. Gakpo, Diaz, Gravenberch, even Van Dijk and Salah. And Salah, they're obviously two players that you would expect the levels out of them, but this season, Salah especially, he's just gone on to a different level, and I think that is small changes to what Slot has asked of him as a footballer, whereas he's kind of just staying up front. You see a lot of the time where they might set a press, and then you have McAllister and Szoboszlai doing a lot of work behind them, but they're not being asked to come back as much, because when you want players in dangerous areas, and like the likes of Salah, Diaz and Gakpo, who are on such good form, you want them near the goal if Liverpool turn over the ball, not having to make those extra runs, which sometimes you can obviously get tired then if you're taking those shots. And yeah, I think we're getting the rewards from it. I think that Forest result is going to haunt him until, I'd say, for the rest of his days. Imagine if they went the whole season unbeaten and he'd still be talking about that Forest lost. But yeah, I think overall we probably couldn't have expected anything better right now. No. I think the only, I'd say, negative you could have on the season so far would be maybe the contract situations. That's something that's obviously being brought up. And I think today there was talk in the media about Madrid coming in for Trent and putting in a bid from the January transfer window. But I think that's something that is a worry. But I think with how we're performing right now, I think that's something that we just have to push to the side, because the main thing is winning the league. There's no other priority I think that we should be thinking about. I think in terms of Slot alone, obviously I'm 27. In terms of a tactical brain, in terms of football nous and intelligence, he's the best I've ever seen at Liverpool. This guy's a genius, bro. He's genuinely a genius. You look at that Fulham game, and you look, every other team in the league loses that game. Liverpool could have won that game. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy. It's absolutely an A+.
110%. I think everybody would agree with that, though, to be fair. But
I'd say Slot would say A minus, A plus if they had a
probably
Forest.
Forest. But like Liverpool just need to keep their heads. That's all Liverpool need to do for the rest of the season.
No, I agree. I think A plus, and then moving into the second half of the season, I think Champions League. If we get one more win, we're guaranteed top spot, or even a draw. I think we're guaranteed first. Then he can maybe rotate some players as well. Yeah. We have the big game against United the weekend. I think similar to when we won the Premier League in 2020. If we were to beat United, it would feel like, even with the stuff that's going on with United, it would feel like a kind of huge step towards winning the trophy. So yeah, A plus for Liverpool, and yeah, hopefully it'll be an A plus come the end of the season as well.
Absolutely.
So moving on to the Premier League champions, just off winning the 4 in a row. What are your thoughts on Man City so far this season?
Like, I mean, it's so surprising how poor they've been. But when you actually look at it, like, in detail, you look at it bit by bit, it's amazing how we didn't think it would happen sooner. I mean, if you look at the last number of years, I think it just shows the kind of genius of Pep Guardiola that he's been able to get them through. Because you look at that City team, I mean, there's players that are getting or have got older there. There's players that are certainly past their primes. There's issues that really should have been looked at that weren't looked at over the last few years. I think City have been a little bit apprehensive to spend as well because of obviously all these charges and stuff like that. They don't want any more of that, even though they probably won't even get any punishment for them.
Unlikely.
But unfortunately. But no, I watched them against Leicester a couple of days ago. They weren't any better. They were very lucky to get the win. I don't see them getting top 4 this season. I actually don't think there's a chance of them getting top 4 this season. They're all over the place. They're all over the place. They're completely reliant on Haaland for goals. They were talking about De Bruyne the last day against Leicester. Sorry, I mean, I like De Bruyne, but he's well past it. He'll be gone to Saudi in the summer. Yeah. Rodri's a huge miss, but ultimately, I mean, you can't be that reliant on one player. Defensively, they have massive issues. I don't think Ederson's a very good goalkeeper either. I've never rated him too much. And Pep doesn't know what to do. He doesn't. And if a guy like Pep doesn't know what to do, then you're screwed.
No, yeah, I agree. I think this is the first time we've probably seen Man City under Pep Guardiola, like, him not have the answers to what's going on. I think he's been baffled at the drop off in terms of the levels that they've been shown. Because I think at the start of the season, even without Rodri, they were still there or thereabouts, but maybe there was a sign that when the game started to ramp up, where say the Premier League and the Champions League, the FA Cup was all starting to come together, and they just, once they fell off from that run, the start, they just haven't been able to get it back going. And I think, as you said, the likes of De Bruyne, bringing back Gundogan, even the signings of, say, Doku, Savinho, they're players that are okay, but they're not say Sterling, Asane, Mahrez when they were kind of at their pomp. And Haaland, the way he's playing at the minute, and the way he's probably played for a lot of his City days, he relies on the City team to create chances. It's not like a Haaland at Dortmund where he would just pick up the ball and run, or they'd play in the counter-attack. That's not his game in this Man City team, and it's not what Pep wants from him. So he's struggling to find his form. And even when he has got his opportunities, like the penalty miss recently, he just hasn't been able to. I think his conversion rate has been very poor as well this season. I can't remember the numbers, but I'll see if I can get it up. But yeah, he just hasn't been anywhere near it. And as you said, relying solely on Rodri as the main issue, that's why they're struggling. I don't think that's the case. And I'm probably with you. I don't see them getting Champions League on current form. Now the thing is that because of it's Man City, they could easily go out and say buy 2 or 3 players in the January transfer window if they felt that they weren't going to get charged. I think the charges are meant to be coming out in February, March. So if they feel like that's leaning toward a innocent verdict, then they could go out and spend money. But in terms of grading, what are you thinking? I'm probably leaning towards to the Premier League champions. You would expect them to win the league. They had 2 wins now in 14. Like
Yeah.
I'm leaning towards
F.
like an F. Yeah, an F.
Yeah, I think as well. I honestly think as well, which is beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's beautiful to give them, is because God, this has been coming for a long time, and I didn't see it coming under Pep Guardiola. I really didn't, but it's happened and it's here, and we'll all bask in it while we can.
Yeah, it's like all those memes. It's like you're sick if you're enjoying this Man City downfall. It's just someone in a coma. Yeah, no, I think F. I'd probably go F plus. If they end up getting, say, Champions League, which is probably unlikely at the minute, then that might change. But I think F plus for now.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Right, moving on to the team everyone loves to hate. Apparently, according to Manchester United fans, that is Manchester United. Listen, I think they probably got themselves into this situation all by their own doing. Ineos coming in, there's obviously a lot of hype or excitement around new ownership, but at the end of the day, like, they went out, wanted to get in a new manager in the summer. They decided to stick with Ten Hag after he won the FA Cup. Knew that they weren't going to like stick with him in a long-term situation. They go out and spend 250 million in the summer and then sack him after 10 games. They bring in Amorim. The squad is nowhere where it needs to be. And yeah, it's almost like this. It feels like it's the worst point United have ever been in post-Fergie. And especially with the amount of optimism that they would have had in the summer with the signings and with like the new ownership, but they just seem to be getting it all wrong. And you can even talk about all the off-field stuff with like cancelling the Christmas party, the vouchers that they rescinded, the cost-cutting measures that they're going into. Like, it just seems on and off the pitch that they're all over the place. I actually feel sorry for Amorim, because similar to Ten Hag, this is a situation that could derail his career, because he's an up-and-coming manager, and the Ten Hag was well sought after or well looked at from his Ajax days, but now he's like kind of a someone that you don't want to touch. Do you know what I mean? The big clubs be where you're going from. So Amorim, I think, has a big job in his hands, but Manchester United as a whole, it's just it's getting ridiculous at this stage. But what are your thoughts?
I mean, it's funny because I was just talking about that there last night. I mean, Amorim, how stupid was he to take that job? I mean, granted, you'll have United fans saying, "Oh, United come in, you can't turn it down," and this and that, whatever. BS. Look, but yes, you can turn a job. You can turn you can't turn it down. You can turn jobs like that down. Because you have to, for the betterment of your managerial career, the betterment of your individual career. That's a poison chalice, an absolute poison chalice is Manchester United. And there will be no big manager for absolutely years and years, beautiful, that will ever touch that job. Nobody. And I'm not saying that I think that Amorim is a good manager or whatever. I mean, Liverpool didn't want him, and it looked like he was really on his knees praying for West Ham, which was a strange one. So if that was kind of his level, then I think that said a lot about him. But he hasn't had it kind to him either. As you said, Jamie, how stupid were they to give Ten Hag a new contract? How stupid were they to keep Ten Hag after winning one game? Obviously, be it the FA Cup final. They had their worst Premier League season ever. He's an absolutely pathetic manager. Then they took him. Obviously, they had to sack him. Then they bring Amorim in, and granted, Amorim has an absolutely terrible squad and all that. But you would have thought there'd be some bounce or something like that. I mean, there's nothing. Like, they're just as bad.
Van Nistelrooy got the bounce.
Like they're arguably worse since he came in than they were before it. But no, they're an absolute disgrace, really. I absolutely love to see it. I love every second of it. Yeah, 100%. But no, I mean, they genuinely have some quality players, some good players there. But they need to get rid of about 90% of their team. They need to get rid of about 90% of the squad, and they need a proper manager to properly build something there. They are struggling. I mean, I have a lot of United mates, and they were talking about, be back up there in 4 or 5 years. I've been hearing that now for since Fergie left. Like,
You mean
it's
the
not gonna
top half,
happen.
yeah?
Yeah, genuinely, and like it. And now they're going further down, which means it will take even longer to actually get back near even competitive in the first place. They're screwed. They're absolutely screwed. It's absolutely lovely to witness. Zed, honestly, Zed.
Right, we'll go with Zed. I think the one thing as well, I think the one reason United are lucky is because all the other teams in the relegation spots are probably a lot worse than where they are. I think they'll eventually pick up points here or there, like the City result. But I think we'll go with Zed. I think that's probably a fair assumption in terms of expectations, the size of the club, the money that they spent. Yeah, I think 100%. We'll go with Zed.
And the noise they made the summer transfer window as well. Like, I mean, thinking that they'd be back, like, give me a break.
Right, perfect. Alright, next up we have they used to be big spenders. They've kind of like calmed down a little bit, but Newcastle. What do you think of Newcastle so far this year?
I mean, based on my expectations, they're about where I expected them to be. Obviously, they have no European competition this season, and they've held on to all their big players. I don't think Eddie Howe will ultimately be the long-term solution there. I think he's a good manager, but I don't think he'll be able to take them up to that next kind of level. But he is still a good enough manager to do well, with this team. He obviously brought them to the Champions League, and he's good enough to bring them back there. And I think they have a good chance of getting back there.
Yeah.
I think I had Newcastle's 5th or 6th. I think I even had them 5th where they are right now. Before the season started, and no, they've been very good, and they're hitting form at the right time. They didn't start the season very well, but they're hitting form at the right time. If they can continue this kind of form going into the next couple of months of the season, they're going to be in a really good position to get top 4. Come April, May.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the one thing I think we're seeing now is. And I was thinking about this today, is we're kind of seeing the breakdown of the traditional top 6, like the Spurs, obviously Man City I know are struggling this year, Chelsea have had their ups and downs, United, but we're starting to see like teams like Aston Villa, like Newcastle, like Forest obviously having a really good year, teams that are being able to push into that bracket. I think Newcastle is one of those teams that they have the capabilities and foundations there because of the money that they're going to have now. I think financial fair play obviously makes it a little bit more difficult. They can't obviously act like a City did when they first came through. But the fact that they don't have European football this year, they have a really good squad and they're getting like that week break in between games. Isak, Gordon, Schär, like all really good Champions League level players. And I think 5th and 6th is probably... Well, I'd say 5th and 6th is probably where they want to be, but I think kind of a push for that 4th is kind of in the back pocket or back of their minds, where they think that if we get a good run of form, then that's something that we could be going for. So, definitely been impressed. I think they probably didn't perform where they would have wanted to last season, but I think obviously with contending with European football, that's difficult. So,
and it's funny because I mean, just looking at the table, obviously they're only 3 points off Chelsea. They're only 4 points off Arsenal. Obviously Arsenal haven't played Brentford yet, and they're 5 points off second. So I mean, like, they've been second most on-form team in the league over the last month or two, and they're good enough to do that. They, as you mentioned, the likes of Isak and Gordon or whatever, I think Isak is even just good enough alone to score you like 25-30 goals in a season or something like that. He will hit, I think, about 25 goals or so this season. So I genuinely right now I would have a bet to put them into that top 4. I really would.
Yeah, Tonali in there as well. He's obviously had to come back from the suspension. So like I think Tonali, Bruno and Joelinton, in terms of balance as a midfield, you're not going to get too much more.
Yeah, facts. Like, they have a really good side, really good side, and obviously they play great against us, and they usually play great in the big games. Yeah. But over the last while now, they're getting a consistent level of performance. So it'll be interesting to see if they can continue that. But I believe they will be able to. I'd say right now, like B-.
Yeah, I was going the same. I think that could potentially go into like an A- if they were to get or an A+ even if they were to get Champions League. But I think right now, I think B-, and then like I'm kind of in between B-, B+. But I think B-, considering some results that they have had, they probably would have been disappointed with. But definitely, I think a lot to come from the second half of the season. Right, next up we have this season's probably most surprise package, even for Jonathan, as he'll tell you why now. But yeah, Jonathan, Nottingham Forest, where did you have them starting this season? How impressed have you been with them so far?
I actually think I had them 19th. I actually think I had them 19th. I thought I had them 18th, but I actually
Leicester
think I
ahead
had
of them.
I actually think I did. I'm not sure. I'm not completely sure actually, but I definitely had them in the drop zone. They've been absolutely unbelievable, but they shown nothing. They shown nothing.
No insights.
They showed no signs of playing like this season. This is literally the biggest surprise right now since like Leicester won the league. Obviously, I don't think Forest are going to do that or whatever. I don't think right now. I still don't think Forest would be in the top four. But I'm saying right now to have Forest second halfway through the season is as surprising as Leicester winning that league, because as I said previous to this, they were only kind of steadily going down and kind of sticking around that. They've been lucky to stay up in the Premier League, in recent years. And I think Nuno's a good manager. I think he's done a very good job at Wolves. But after looking at him first coming in to the club, he had a little bit of a bounce, and then afterwards it kind of just stagnated. I didn't see him, just going up like this all of a sudden. But they've been absolutely unbelievable. You talk about the likes of Wood and Aina and Gibbs White and everything. Like, it's crazy, and you gotta like them, you gotta admire them, you gotta respect them. I'm really happy for them, and I hope they continue to do as well as they are. It's a crazy story, it really is.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would begrudge you for having them in the relegation zone at the start of the year.
No.
Because as you said, it was a massive surprise. Nobody would have expected it for them to be punching where they are. Like, they're like ahead of like Arsenal, and pretending on results that how Arsenal do at Brentford, they could be second in going into 2025, which is just crazy. I think they've obviously had a bit of luck as well with the points deduction, similar to like Everton in terms of staying in the league and kind of knocking about. They've obviously bought well. The centre backs are two unbelievable players for them. Aina looks like a star player, someone that's gonna really kick on.
Murillo's good too.
Yeah, Murillo. And yeah, they just seem like a really solid team. A team like, listen, we obviously know how hard they are to play against after we lost them against at Anfield. But I think based on how they've been performing this year, it doesn't even look that bad now. Do you know what I mean? And I think we're playing them away in January, which is going to be a big test.
We're going to have it out for them. We're going to have it out for them.
Slot will have them up for that game.
Yeah, Slot is going to be like... Yeah. So it's in his head like about that game. He's going to be up like sleepless nights, making sure he has it all perfect for that game.
All the tactics will be dialed in.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, listen, I think I agree with you. I think the form might start to dip, just because I think it's a long season. Players will maybe get injured. Like, if you're talking about maybe an injury to Aina or one of the centre backs, then I think that might be a big issue. But I think so far this season, I think it's anything other than an A+, similar to like Liverpool. They're 100%. Just performing so high of a level. I think A+ is only fair.
Yeah, me too. Like, I mean, you'd have to say it's funny when you look at their goal difference and see they've, like, Spurs have a higher goal difference and they're 11th. Do you know what I mean? It's crazy if you look at their goal difference, but they're doing things in the right way. They've conceded 19 goals in 19 games. They're not conceding many goals, and if you don't concede many goals, then you're going to be in a lot more matches. It's simple as that. But yeah. Fantastic. Football's
an easy game when you break it down. It's like scores more and then concede less. That's it. That's how it is.
100%.
Next up, we have Premier League kind of mainstays for a while, and I think this year they're getting found out a little bit, and that is Southampton. What are your thoughts on Southampton so far?
I mean, I think Russell Martin was very naive in the way he managed them. He had them trying to. He didn't have a good squad at all. Yeah, they don't, and they were trying to play out from the back, and they were trying to do teams that can only do certain things with top class players. So I wasn't surprised. I think everybody had them bottom. I had them bottom, and they have been a bit better since Pereira came in. They've been more competitive. I watched some of that game or the highlights against West Ham, and they lost that 1-0, and they probably deserved to win that game. They were unlucky as well. Crystal Palace turned them over at the weekend after being 1-0 up. So they have been better under Pereira. I see them getting a few more points, but their bed is made already, isn't it?
Yeah.
So
100%. Yeah. I think 6 points at this stage of the season is just not looking good, and I don't think any team would be expecting to overturn it. I think they're just gonna go out and see what they can do. Maybe get 1 or 2 results. Keep optimism as high as they can, but I think it's kind of written that they're gonna go down more or less at this stage. So yeah, I think it's hard. I think F is harsh considering like the standards. Like you're not expecting them to like be doing that well. Do you know what I mean? I think probably
E.
Yeah, I think E is
like
F. Yeah, F is harsh. I think E minus is probably okay.
The only thing is, like, I mean, everybody had Southampton to go down, but 6 points after 19 games, bro. It's
Derby levels.
Man, genuinely, like, I mean, they've won 1 game all season. They've lost 15 games out of 19, minus 27 goal difference. They've only scored 12 goals through 19 games. Who was that game that they actually won?
I don't know. I can't remember. Was it Leicester? No.
Was it
White Leicester?
No. I was going to say West Ham. No, but sure, they lost.
Yeah, but 1 win. Like,
could be Ipswich, actually.
2 wins all season. Like if that's the current record they're gonna go at, like just it's not good enough. No. But yeah, we'll go with E minus then for them. Alright, next up we have the Premier League's up and down, probably the most up and down team in the Premier League, and that is Spurs. Yeah, I think, and it's almost like similar to like we're talking about with United. Spurs is almost, as you said, a poison chalice. It seems that no matter who the manager is, like you had some unbelievable managers go in. You have Conte, you had Mourinho, and it doesn't matter who goes in. They just seem to always be that kind of average team that can't seem to kind of push beyond where they're at. And I think this season they're definitely performing a lot worse than where they should be. I think in 2024 it's the worst year in terms of points they've ever had since 2008, which I kind of says a lot about maybe how they ended last season and how they've started this year. But I think Postecoglou was just, I don't know. I think I see the way he talks and the demeanor when he first came into what he is like now. He's just so infuriated by like the standards they have week in, week out. And I think there's probably is a bit of naivety in terms of like maybe sometimes the way he wants to play football. But if you look at it from a manager's perspective, and I think it's easy for us as fans and even as pundits to say, well, change your philosophy. But like, if you're a manager and you go in and you start trying to change your philosophy, like straight away you're basically giving up on what's got you to where you are. And I think that's kind of the situation he's in at the minute, and he's just not able to get more out of this players and out of this club than what he has right now. And that's the situation where usually happens with Spurs, where they have a good start with a manager, optimism is high, then the trouble starts, and it kind of inevitably leads to them getting sacked and starting the process all over again. But yeah, what are your thoughts on Spurs so far?
No, I couldn't agree more. I mean, I've always said Ange is overrated. I've always said it. I've never really thought he's like this great savior to Spurs. An awful lot of people, pundits and kind of fans alike, were lapping him up last season. And if you look at certain games, or most games even, it's pretty clear he doesn't have a plan B. Like, it's fine to have had success with one kind of style of play up until a certain point of your career, but if that ends up failing and you have nothing in the back to actually change it up with, then you're not really a great manager, are you? And I like him. Like, I'm sure he's a nice fella and all that. It's just, I don't know, like the comments, I usually win things in my second year and kind of stuff like that. I thought was
not at first.
Yeah, exactly. And I thought that was stupid as well, because it's not like you showed us any signs last year you were going to win anything.
Yeah.
They have been unlucky this season with injuries as well. Obviously, they had Van de Ven and Romero still out. But look, I think Ange is very naive. I think he's on borrowed time. He's not going to be Spurs manager much longer. I think he's favourite to go next, and I think that will happen. Him or Lopetegui, I would say. And no, I mean you would have to say I think I had Spurs in like the top 6 starting the season, but that wasn't because of Ange. It was more so that I thought other teams wouldn't be as good, and Spurs would be thereabouts. I didn't have them in the top 4 or 5th. I think I had them 6th. But no, really poor. And you've got to say really, really low in terms of grading so far this season. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, what do you think then in terms of grade?
I'd say I'd probably go with what we were going with for Southampton, and I go E+.
Yeah, I think E+ is fair. I think the players that they have, they definitely should be punching a lot harder than what they're showing. But yeah, I think it's just more mentality within the club, the players, and I think it does come out on Ange. I think he's obviously trying his best to get more out of them. And I think it's like for him as a manager, it's him taking the next step in his career, and I think he's struggling to adapt to that. Like obviously, as you said, you can have one style to play, and I think you should stick to your philosophy for the most part. But and it worked really well at Celtic because they're obviously the most dominant team there. They're obviously going to be able to play the style of football that they want to play. But there's just tactical tweaks that you need to be able to make yourself more solid in certain situations and still play your own style of football. I think he gets a lot of praise because it's enjoyable to watch his matches as a neutral. Do you know what I mean?
Yes.
So you can't hate him in that sense. But I think just a bit of naivety sometimes, and I think it's just Spurs is just the merry-go-round that is Spurs, similar to what United are like at times. But we'll go E+.
Yeah, like I think sometimes certain players, certain managers are not up to that level, and Ange Postecoglou is not up to the level of the Premier League. He's got to put the fries in the bag. Fries in the bag. Yeah, he's got to. Well, Levy will probably have him out anyway soon, but I don't blame him. Like, I mean, you're not gonna do any. You might give him time or whatever, but they're not gonna compete, be where they want to be with Ange. They're just not.
I agree. Yeah, A+ then we'll go for them. Next up, we have West Ham, a team that obviously spent big in the summer. They got rid of David Moyes, brought in Lopetegui, and expectations were high. But yeah, they have failed to deliver so far this year. What are your thoughts on West Ham so far, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, Jamie, they, as you were saying, they spent well. They bought some good players, and they have some really good players there. Like Paqueta is a good player, Kudus is a really good player, Jared Bowen's a really good player. Like, they have some good players there. It's another case of a couple of teams that we were talking about today where they're not doing near as well as they should be doing, and it's not even that they should be like top 6 or top 8, or some of these teams should be like in the top 4 or top 6. It's that they're not like seriously underperforming their actual level that they should be within over kind of the average of the entire squad. But no, I've never rated Lopetegui. I knew he wasn't a good manager. I didn't think West Ham would do well this season, and the sooner they let him go, the better, because they are absolutely woeful.
Yeah, no, I think it's kind of similar to Spurs in a sense, in terms of they want to take that next step as a club, and I think David Moyes, the style of football that they play was not something that they enjoyed, but it got results. Like winning a European trophy for them is massive. Do you know what I mean? And like say Spurs would like bite off your hand to be in that situation. But anytime they try and get rid of that type of style of manager and bring in someone that can take them to the next step, they just can't seem to get it right. And yeah, I think it's a case of they've obviously spent in the summer, but they're going to be back to square one. They might get someone in for a bit more stability, get them up the table away from the relegation zone, and you're kind of back in a spiral. But in terms of grading, like they spent big in the summer. Yeah, I think E+ as well. I think a D would be a bit too generous because the money that they spent. But yeah, I think E+ is fair.
E+ sounds good. Yes, these latter teams are really getting hammered.
Getting hammered.
With these, yeah.
It all started with
So,
United.
yeah. After that, it was just downhill.
Yeah. Finally, then we have Wolverhampton Wanderers or Wolves. But yeah, Jonathan, what are your thoughts on Wolves so far this year?
They're another team. Like out of many, especially that we've talked previously to this, that like they have good players. They're just not performing to that level. But since Pereira's came out now, they have looked so much better, and I thought they would look better with a refreshment, with a fresh voice, with especially a Portuguese voice, because obviously they still have that kind of Portuguese element in there with a lot of players, or Brazilian obviously with the likes of Cunha as well. Yeah. Since Nuno was there a few years ago. So I felt Pereira would do a good job. He's doing a very good job so far. 7 points out of a possible 9. He's unbeaten through the 3. So I felt it was only a matter of time. I felt, honestly, with Gary O'Neill, he's not a bad manager, but he's limited. We've seen that at Bournemouth. Ultimately, he didn't do a bad job at Bournemouth, but they opted to sack him, I think. But maybe there was something going on behind the scenes. They didn't see eye to eye, but he is limited. And you can see that within his teams, like especially good players that, he certainly does not get the most out of or the best out of. I did see it only as a matter of time, even with O'Neill, that Wolves were going to get better. But with Pereira, I think we're seeing that now. And I don't think they're going to be anywhere near the drop zone come the end of the season.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think they had a bit of a tough start. I think they do have the quality to stay in the Premier League. If you look at the other teams around them, I think even like Cunha, as you said, is probably like the standout. He could be playing for a Champions League team, and I'd say it would be likely that someone might come in from in the summer if he continues his good form. I think only Coutinho has more goal involvements as a Brazilian in the Premier League. I think in a calendar year. Yeah,
wow.
I think so. Yeah, I think Coutinho the year before we sold him, which is I think testament in terms of like. Coutinho was obviously in a Premier League team, and Cunha's doing it for Wolves. You know what I mean?
Fact.
So yeah, I think as you say, I think disappointing start of the year, but there's obviously signs that they're going to start to improve. 7 points from 9, big wins against Leicester in the relegation battle, and then obviously United, which seems to be like a guaranteed 3 points at this stage. But then in terms of grading, I think I'd probably lean towards maybe D-. I think E would be a bit harsh.
Yeah,
but I think. Yeah, D- because they need to push on now. But
I think if we were talking, it's funny because we talked with Chelsea as well earlier on. If we were talking before these 3 games, I'd say Wolves probably would have been like F.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? Yeah. But look, they've had that kind of upturn in form that I think we've all expected now. Obviously, they got the new manager in. We're seeing that bounce. How long will it continue? We'll see, or whatever. But certainly, you mentioned the likes of Cunha there. Even Chan is a good player. Larson's a good player. Aït-Nouri's a good player
very
too.
good left back.
Yeah, so you're talking about like they have a lot of quality there. Even Sa's a good goalkeeper and goal. I always knew it wouldn't be long that we'd see them down there, and I honestly think Wolves at the end of the season they'd be looking like 13, 14, 12, 13, something like that. Yeah. But I concur with the grade D-. D-, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, sweet.
But yes, that is it. That is our Premier League grading so far this year. Obviously, there's probably some that you disagree with, but let us know in the comments what you think. Jonathan, any final words before we wrap up?
Thanks for having me on, Jamie. Much appreciated. Enjoyed the chat. Certainly enjoyed giving us the two of us waxing lyrical about Liverpool and ripping into United. Both just very deserved. But yeah, enjoyed it. Best of luck with the content, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, no, a big thank you to Jonathan for coming on. And yeah, if you are new to the channel, make sure to drop a like and subscribe. And yeah, we'll chat to you all very, very soon. Cheers, guys.